mustache in error. And welcome to the No Faces comic chat. This is BUB'S Comics. We are technically live. Everybody agree with that? Yeah, we're live.
Yeah.
And
I'm taking my pulse. Yes, correct.
Oh, we got one live one. With me, as always, is Metarog, aka Roger, or is it Roger, aka Metarog? I don't know. We'll just call him aka for short tonight. And there he is, checking his pulse. He's alive. Say greetings, everyone.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the 1-year anniversary extravaganza.
All right, let's turn down the smolder a little bit.
I get easily excited, that's just the way it is.
All right, there we go. Already 30 seconds in, we're in the gutter. Thanks a lot, Roger. Next, we got DS Comics to my metaphorical left, or metaphysical left, I suppose. Say hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Good deal. We'll take that. And this evening, although technically kind of whatever you want, I don't know. I'm no what do you call chronologist by any stretch of the word. But I would say that this likely marks our 1-year anniversary show. So happy anniversary, guys.
Woohoo! Awesome, virtual confetti. Woohoo!
Yes, an actual confetti just off camera.
Yeah, that's right. After this, we're popping the champagne. We're going to town. I'm not drinking it, but I'm popping it.
Oh, okay. Well, he's gonna pop it. We're gonna drink it. I think it's so. I'll give a short history of the No Faces chat, and when I say short, it's gonna be really short. So basically, a little over a year ago, I was watching other people's chats, and I had yet to be invited on any of them. So, like any good business owner, you open a business when nobody will hire you. So, basically, what happened was that I was just like, these people are doing these chats. I was ready to do a little bit more with my channel, and I didn't know. I wanted it to just be kind of a once a month thing. And I said, all these people have such great personalities on their channel, but I don't show my face on my channel. And there's lots of people who don't show their face on their channels. So maybe we'll get just kind of a league together of people who don't show their faces. And on a regular basis was my thing. Every now and then you'll have somebody show their face, but that's okay. Well, it's a regular thing that generally don't show their faces, so we'll get a little faces chat going. Struggled real hard in the beginning as to what to name it, so I asked people on my channel, what should I name it? And actually, this No Faces comic chat was kind of an amalgam of a couple of the things that people had suggested, amongst other really good suggestions and some really bad ones. So I enjoyed that, and I kind of put it together, and then I sent out a couple of emails. Do you guys remember how I reached out to you? I kind of don't.
Well, I think what happened is after everybody turned you down, you were left with only me and Roger, who felt sympathetic.
Boy, see, that is a bub. That's a bub statement there.
Yeah, it's been a year.
I don't know. I sold you those mini comics from the what was it? The Drake's Cakes. And then we started like talking a little bit about, I don't know, live shows or whatever. And I was like, man, I'll do it with you, but I'm not showing my face. And you're like, yeah, I don't show mine either. And we went from there. And Roger's, we did as well, right, Roger?
Yeah.
I think so. Maybe a little before, but yeah, around there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We're all pretty much newcomers on YouTube because I started my channel like February of 18. And it was only a few months after that. And I think, Bub, you started yours around the same time, and Roger too.
Yeah, I started mine in February of 18. Yep.
And Roger was.
I think I started in November of 17. I think November.
Yeah, you were a few months ahead of us for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because in that same class that you and I started with DS, you've got Silver Age Dave. He started the same time. About 2 months after us, you've got a Comics with Bueller started up.
Yep.
Around the same time that Now, technically, Reggie had his channel before, but he didn't start showing comic material until around the same time, somewhere between Roger and us.
Yeah.
So
he started after me, I think. Him and
okay.
started a week out, 2 weeks after me.
Yeah, he's right there with us in the same group. So I mean, in any case, I've really enjoyed it, and I really wanted to. At that time, I was looking for something a little bit more. I enjoyed making YouTube videos, but I wanted something just a little bit more, something interactive, something kind of live. I thought once a month I could spare myself an evening to do that, and it would be fun. So I started kind of looking for people that also had no faces chat. But what's funny is that around that time, a lot of the YouTubers that I had been watching started showing their faces. and there was pretty much a chat lined up every night except for Monday nights. So I thought that would be a nice kind of night to start to have a slightly more cerebral chat. And I thought, one of the problems with a cerebral chat is that it can get boring for others. And one of the problems with a completely asinine chat, which you see some of those, not pointing any names out, but there are a few of them that are just, laugh fests, where they don't really talk about comics at all, which is okay. It's still entertaining. I still watch those too.
Me too.
But but I wanted something a little bit more about knowledge and comics and kind of not always educational, but just something that's informative and fun at the same time. Kind of thinking Electric Company kind of stuff, so I thought if we had something like that, so who am I going to get to do that? And I felt like I knew I wanted DS from the beginning, because at that time I was really, really impressed with his knowledge base and his method to acquiring books and all that. I'm less impressed now, but at that time I was
at that time I was doing superhero stuff, and I was charting prices, and I was doing those little handwritten bar graphs, and I was doing GPA analysis and going after superhero keys, and it's not nearly as fun now.
But all that stuff he was doing then really interests me, because it seemed like he was taking a lot of time and energy towards planning out these books, and I thought that was just great, and I thought it'd be very informative, and I could really learn a lot, because at that time I had only been back in collecting for a few months. So I thought, this would be really good. I want to surround myself with people that have a great deal of knowledge so that I can learn from them. And, someday maybe they would bless me with calling me equal, right? And then, of course, Roger, I think at that time you were putting out your hour-and-a-half long, opuses of 30-cent video, 30-cent variants or 35-cent variants.
Yep.
And I was just like, 45 minutes per chapter. And I was like, my goodness, this guy has so much comic knowledge. It's ridiculous. It's just oozing out of him. And I still do find you quite oozy. So that's good.
Especially when it's humid. I'm very oozy when it's humid.
I'm sure, yeah. So I just really thought that at that time, putting us all together, getting us, and I had a couple other people that I kind of courted, and they weren't able to come in, and I needed someone that relatively was going to be steady and could come on often, I was hoping, so we could build something of it's hard to have a following, I think, if you're just one person, and then the guest always rotates and changes. But I think it's better if it has a group of people or a small group that people kind of can rely on being there. So when we all got together, I think DS and I did a little mock stream to test out the equipment, which worked well. And then we went live with our first real episode about a year ago. And very, 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 it's been great. You guys have been awesome. I've really enjoyed it. Just top-notch information, I feel, flies around here. I've always been, for me, I've always been a quick study. So spending a year with you guys feels like a long course in history, and just I feel well soaked in comic knowledge now. And
so you're oozy now too.
I am.
You're oozy.
I'm an oozy.
I noticed your collecting style. Not only the process that you go through, but the type of books you go after. I'm not saying that me and Roger have influenced that, but they've definitely changed exactly over the year we've been doing this show. And when you first got on here, you didn't have anything like earlier. I think you just had gotten that Hulk 181, and that was it. You didn't have anything before like the 70s, maybe one Silver Age book or something. And
yeah, I was pretty much
more Silver Age than me.
Yeah.
When I first started collecting, I was hunting only Wolverine titles, and I was trying to get the first, all the volumes of Wolverine. That's all that I collected.
Yep.
And then I was pretty close to getting finished with that. So I started looking at other YouTubers and seeing what other people were collecting, and started getting excited by other people's collections. And really, I was kind of looking at getting an ASM 129, and you were looking at getting one at the same time. So that is what kind of drew me into your videos too. And then Roger shows so many books that no one else shows.
Yeah.
I mean, just nobody shows. And honestly, to see the kind of variety that the chat out there, if you want to see the kind of variety that Roger has in his collection, you're going to have to dig through 25-cent bins for the rest of your life, because
about 40 years of digging, I'd say. Yeah, that'll do it.
I mean, it's not because they're, low quality books. It's just because those are, he focuses kind of on the obscura and the promotionals and the variants, not modern variants, of course, but, things of that nature. And
natural variants.
Yes, natural variants. And you just never see that. You never see that being shown off in other channels. So it's just a phenomenal channel. Obviously, everyone here is subbed to Roger, so there's no worries about that. But I just think that you guys
I'm blushing here. I'm red as cherry tomatoes right now.
Yeah, and I started watching Roger's channel around the same time. I got on YouTube. Roger, you were one of the earliest channels I watched, because you were putting out a lot of content, and you had a lot of really obscure books, and it's part of the influence, or at least helped me realize the thing I like most about doing the haul video or showing books. I love showing books that not necessarily are valuable, but books that I would like to get comments like, oh, I've never seen that before. That's cool. I love being able to show off books that people haven't seen before. And I remember feeling on the other side of that, watching your videos all the time, even though I was pretty, fairly well versed in, Bronze Age stuff. Still, you have so much stuff that I was like, I really liked seeing stuff I hadn't seen before, and that's sort of where I'm at now. That's what I try to do, is show books that people haven't seen before. Part of the influence was from your channel when I started watching it early.
Wow, I'm flabbergasted. I am just beyond honored.
And really, I didn't get the same thrill when I showed that Hulk 181. That's probably like the superhero highlight of my early YouTube videos.
Yeah,
I loved going after that book, but once I had it in my hands and showing it off, I mean, people were like, wow, awesome, blown away about this, this 8.5 white page Hulk 181. But it's like, yeah, everybody's seen that before. I'm not really adding much other than, throwing around some money and look what I got. It's a book, but.
Yeah, I agree. And that's that's actually why I like what you were doing, is that you acquire these very, some are rarities, like the Catholic school comics that you have, and some of it, obviously now your horror, those things are just ghosts, right? But but you're when I see your channel, I always learn something new, because you have a way of digging and researching things that's most impressive. I mean, I would say if your profession would be, some kind of tactical researcher, you would be a millionaire, because there's nobody that could nobody could research you. I mean, the way you're very systematic, and you have evidence to back up everything, and that's very rare nowadays.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll tell you, when we had that time travel discussion, there's a lot of things that happen in my personal life that if I can go back to 5, that's why I'm like 5. That's good, but I am a trained tactical researcher, and that was a career I had. So, I mean, I think it does come from that, and it's cool that you recognize that. But that's not where my life is now. But it does stem from that. I've applied my tactical research training in my previous life, so to speak, to this passion now. So that's sort of shining through. I appreciate you recognizing that. Yeah.
Well, again, in my past, I've worked with folks of your ilk, so I can recognize, but again, not at your level. I wish I had worked with folks at your level, but so I recognize when you have an effective tactician. So
I only wish I had been doing this nonstop since I was 18. I would, you know, God, that's like one of, I don't know if I call it a regret, but when you, especially in this hobby, you always look back and like, what if, or if I only type things. And I always fantasize if I could go back to being 18 and not take a break from this hobby for so long. And man, I think about it all the time. It's not really a regret as much as sort of like an exciting sort of fantasy dream that I have. And I think all people in this hobby have it. Yeah. And I think it's prevalent in this hobby than in a lot of other hobbies. Like, you know, there was a period of time where I was making jewelry, like hemp jewelry, and I was really into that kind of stuff. It was an interesting period, but there's not like a look back like, oh, if only I had done this earlier. You know, there's some things aren't like that. But in this hobby, you know, the collectible art, so to speak, hobby, there's that look back where you're like, what if I would have done this, or what if I wouldn't have done that, or whatever. And yeah, I do that all the time, and I am pretty efficient, you know, for my purposes now with this hobby. But man, could you imagine if we would go back to being 18 and not take that break? And some of the people in the hobby have done that. Very few. You're one of them, Roger. You have, you know, been digging through bins for 40 years, and it shows. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I respect about your channel. There's a couple others, like I think Silver Age Dave's been at it for a long time.
Yeah.
It's hard to even come up with somebody in this hobby or in this community that's been doing this like nonstop. Tech 30, I think, is doing it for a long time. He didn't take any breaks from it, and you see the results.
Yeah,
yeah, you can tell when a collection is cultivated over a great many decades. You can definitely see it, both in volume and in quality. And you know, whenever a book gets hot, you know, someone's like, "Oh, this book is now all of a sudden this is a hot spec book, or this is a book." You know, and then someone just whips out the book and says, "Ah, yeah, of course I've got one of those. Yeah, I bought it for 12 cents. You know, here." You know, and you're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that's a great feeling, by the way, when that happens, because not because of, you know, hubris per se, but just because now it's one that you don't have to sweat out and hunt down because you already have it. You know?
Yeah, I had all my comics at my parents' house from when I was, you know, high school age. And I had like 4 long boxes full, and then some other stacks of stuff. And I left it there and went on with my life and got out of collecting, and they just stayed there for, you know, 20 years or something like that. Maybe even more than 20, but about 20 years. And I never saw them for 20 years. I had forgotten what I owned. And, you know, I didn't have anything phenomenal in there. But when I got back in the hobby, at one point I was like, you know, I need to get back to my parents' house and dig those out and get them. And I did that. And that was before I started YouTube. But it was so exciting going back through and seeing the books for the first time again. And I totally forgot what I owned. And I was pulling, it's like digging through a long box. You never know what you're going to see, but you know all of them you bought before, and you can't remember what any of them are going to be. It's so fun. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have anything phenomenal. I think I had like, I don't know, like a beat up ASM 300 was probably the biggest book in there. And I had a whole run of Thor. I had the whole run of Spawn, early on Spawn, and like a bunch of X-Men. And I don't know, I had some minor Spider-Man keys, nothing huge, but yeah, it was really fun. And then at that point, when I got that, really fueled me to get heavy back into the hobby. And then I always would think, I still do think about those 4 long boxes. If I wouldn't, because I'm looking at those books, I remember the day I got it. I remember the shop I bought it at, and I remember reading it. And I think, man, if I could go back to that point and just not get out of the hobby, just stick with it until now. It's like, I saw this, I go back in time and see the start of my collecting, and then there's this huge gap, and now I'm in it again. And I, you know, I would do anything to close that gap down, go back and not have that gap. But
yeah.
Well, and what you collect changes too. I mean, you were saying before that I kind of switched over to Golden Age, you know, picking up a lot of Golden Age. Still don't pick up a lot of Silver Age. I kind of like the DC Silver. but I never have been a big Marvel Silver collector. So, but that's okay. So I kind of skipped over a lot of the Silver Age and focus a lot on Golden Age right now, and still keys from the Bronze. So Bronze keys and Copper keys, and then Golden Age. And when, I'm sure that a lot of that came from you, from watching your videos and being a fan of your channel and being exposed to those types of books and really appreciating the art in them. And I've always loved dissecting the art, and there's so much to dissect in the Golden Age. And really watching your channel gave me a lot of feel for that, and made me more familiar with the artists involved and the publication histories around that as well. And then what happened is that, like you always say, when you started showing Golden Age books, that's when your channel just like you lost half your viewers, right?
Yeah, nobody wanted to see that crap.
Yeah. And and when I started showing Golden Age, that's when DS stopped watching my channel. So that's and I was like, what the hell, man?
And I just tuned in to go check out some of yours today, and I saw you put up a video that was 30 minutes long, and I'm like, he better not be ragging on Roger anymore for these long videos, because now I got half hour.
Hey, exactly, DS. Let's talk about that, right? Because he right. I think the roles have been reversed here, because my videos are getting shorter and his are getting longer.
You're running out of things.
I was watching that video and I'm like, oh, okay, how much? This has got to be almost over. And I look at it, and it's like, it's 5 minutes in. I'm like, 25 more minutes of this. All right, I have to do it. I did sit through the whole thing,
but his videos are darn good, so I stayed through the whole thing. But still, he cannot razz me anymore on that dynamic.
Right?
No way.
He broke 30 minutes. It was like 30 and 14 seconds or something.
Yeah.
You guys suck. All right. Hey,
we want to talk about the chat?
Yeah.
We want to talk about the chat before it gets away from us?
Yeah, hold on. There's two things we haven't done. One is we haven't said what the name of the chat is, which
okay.
are the No Faces Comic Chat with our team name tonight is the Make Mine Mylar Marching Band. And I figured that was a title that both of you should hate pretty well.
Wow.
I think I'm the only one that likes
Not
Mylar.
My favorite.
Point.
Not my favorite. Not my favorite. No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the broken alliteration at the end. It's like you got me up with all this alliteration, and then you smashed my hopes at the end with the band. So I'm out.
That's exactly what I wanted to do.
I like the homage. I like the homage to the Merry Marvel Marching Society. I like that part. But yeah, at the end, it's downhill. Everything was fine until the conclusion. That's where you drop the ball.
All right. And in the chat tonight, we have. Go ahead, Roger.
Okay, great chat tonight, and good, because they're going to be figuring very, very heavily into today's No Faces chat, right? Ooh. So we got all-star team in the chat. Here we go. We got Area 51 Mike, the master of the models and the statues, in here. We got Unruly Simeon, which is one of my favorite guys because he's actually older than I am. All right. And that's a rarity. We got my buddy from Grader's Notes, Comic Head 84, the dropper of keys, but one of the best and smoothest guys on the planet. Bat Cave Comics, one of my buddies from Florida, who has, if you guys, by the way, if you guys have not subbed to Bat Cave Comics, hit his little icon and sub, because if you think my collection is good, this guy is amazing. Just amazing stuff. We have the Archie fan and now Boy Commandos fan, Mr. Gretzky. Rayman the Silencer Man, the flea market master himself, is in the chat tonight. We got Comic Collector Tim. Congratulations, second time dad. And he also showed a great Archie collection, which, blew me away. I can't believe there were so many Archie titles. I've never even seen that many ever before. Let's see who else we got up here. Dave Enrique, welcome, my brother. Hey, our old pal Mike from Knights of Old. We've had him on this chat. He's on the Golden Guys every Tuesday with DS. Welcome. Talk about a great collection. This is one guy, I don't even want to see his channel, because every time I see it, I just want to bury my head in the sand because his stuff is so good. Isn't it? Don't you feel the same?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's talk about inferiority complex. Don't see his channel. Actually do. Sub him up because he's amazing. Let's see who else we got in here. Ooh, I'm just scrolling down here. I know we had earlier, we had Gray Man in here. We had liking the covers. We have, of course, Werewolf by Lunchtime. He is a very loyal fan of our chat. D-Runk Comics, again, one of those great guys from Minnesota. I won one of his contests. Just great stuff that he shows. Let's see who else. I said liking the covers. Oh, JB was in here. We've been discovered. Yep. AML, that's a new channel now. AML, he's been doing some contest entries and showing some comics. Again,
very active.
If you haven't subbed up, everybody in the chat, please do, because these are the guys that are supporting us, and these guys also have great content. So let's support those that are supporting us today. And I think that is everybody.
You already got Area 51 Mike, Unruly Simeon, right? David
He's always one of the earliest ones here.
Yeah.
Matt Cave, you said Comic Head 84. Did you mention him? Did you see him?
Oh, yeah, Kenny. Man, my greater no buddy. You kidding me? Yeah. If I didn't mention him, he'd kick me off.
That's fair. And also, I'd like to do 2 honorary shout outs. One is to Deadpool 2323, who couldn't make the chat tonight, but I do want he's sitting at like 399 subs. So if somebody would give him like a pity sub out there, I'd appreciate it. I know that's not the way he wants it, but that's how sometimes you got to get it. No, he's got great content.
Oh yeah.
He's working like a horse these days. So, but he's got great content, great collection. Really some amazing, if you want to see some amazing original sketches and artwork, he's amassed quite a collection of that. Just really good stuff. And his collection's in flux right now.
I've been hunting with him. You guys wouldn't believe this guy could find gold in 30,000 feet up. I mean, he's amazing. To see him at work at hunting is truly something majestic.
It is something. He pulls out some great finds. He really is quite impressive. So so if anyone would care or has a moment to go, we'll let you leave the chat for a minute and go sub him up and come back.
I'll post his link in the chat so everybody can
that'd be great. And then also I'd also like to give a shout out to Alex the Comic Quarter and Paul Milton also. I don't know if he goes by that anymore in his chats, but those are 2 guys that religiously watch us on the Rewind. So even though they can't be with us in the chat tonight, they almost always watch. The next morning, I'll get comments from them on the chat. And I know Alex likes to save us for his runs. So he goes on a run and he'll listen to us on the way. So we appreciate you guys even checking in on the Rewind. So thank you all for that. It's been a great year. It really has. I remember when we started out, we didn't have more than 20 or so people in the chat when we started. And now we've got about 20 or so people in the chat. And it's been an amazing metamorphosis.
Oh man.
But really, it's been a lot of fun. You guys make it all worth it. So if anybody out there has a question or has a topic that they want us to kind of get into, I know we've blown through the first half hour patting each other on the back, but if there's anything anybody wants to talk about, shoot us a topic and we'll get it out there.
Is this a viewer appreciation video for our first year anniversary?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. I'm down. Yeah.
This is like Stump the Band. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, hit us, see what we know, see what we don't. And, one thing I was noticing, guys, we're talking about our anniversary, which is, comes from the Latin annus, meaning year, right? And comic companies are very confused about what anniversaries mean. Did you know that?
Did you say comic companies or women?
Well, no. Listen, Bob, I don't go there.
I don't know where you were going. You start with your Latin annus. Look.
No. You're not trapping me into that one. All right? No way, no how. But look at this. Spider-Man 200, right? Spider-Man 200, right before you, right? And notice it says this blurb over here. Our 200th issue anniversary spectacular, right? Okay. Right. Now, if somebody out there, I'm sure Mike knows from Knights of Old, Amazing Spider-Man #1, I believe, was from March 1962, right? March. It was a March cover date. And even Amazing Fantasy was November. So how is a January issue an anniversary? Plus, it's 200, which means 200 months. Maybe there was some bi-monthlies in there, but shouldn't it be 240 or somewhere around there? But not 200. 200 is not an anniversary, correct?
Yeah, it's just a 200th.
It's a milestone edition.
There you go.
Milestone.
I think that's where they confuse the definitions between anniversary and milestone, right? Now here is another one here. This is it. 200th anniversary issue. Well, first of all, this didn't start as an Incredible Hulk issue. It started as Tales to Astonish.
Right.
So it'd be very difficult to determine where the heck the anniversary is. But they do get it right here and there, because over here we have Fantastic Four 236, and this is indeed 20 years from the publication of Fantastic Four #1.
Nice.
So they are confused, but they get it right sometimes.
At one time, I was collecting those anniversary borders. What is that? 25 years or? Yeah,
the one with the big face.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Those are 1986. Yes.
I was collecting quite a lot of those at one time. I kind of gave up on them because there were so many that were just. The problem with my novelty collections is that they reach a point where the novelty is kind of wore off for me, and yet there's some books that are really only priced the way that they are because of that novelty. You know, so like for that book, I remember it being tough to find like the Ewoks book. Yeah. There's an Ewok book with that, and it's like, you know, I'm not spending $200 just to complete, on a novelty book. That's just too much for me.
Yeah, so. I remember when I knew that you were not going to stick with those is when I was out of town and I was at a comic shop, and I texted you and I said, hey, they have the Care Bears anniversary version here, also signed by I can't remember who signed it. Who was a Marvel editor at the time? Is who signed it?
Shooter?
Yeah, Jim Shooter. It was signed by Jim Shooter. And the Care Bears anniversary signed by Jim Shooter. And it was probably like a 9.0. And they wanted a reasonable price for what the book was. And Bub's like, no, I'm not paying that for that book. I'll find some. And at that point, I knew he's not going to complete these anniversary borders because this is the hardest one to find. And he doesn't even want to put out like $100 for it or whatever it was. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't either, but I knew you weren't going to go after him then.
Yeah, I hit my ceiling with those novelty books pretty quick. You know, I gotta get lucky. I gotta find them in the wild and get really lucky. And it
honestly, you have my favorite one, which is probably also your favorite one, which is the X-Men 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it?
211 or something like that.
211.
I'm guessing. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've got that one still.
With Wolverine on the front, and he's got his mask half ripped off. It's part of the Mutant Massacre storyline.
Yeah. I like that one. I've kept several of them. I still have the Iron Man one. I still have the I think one of the Black Suit Spidey ones I kept. So I still have several of them, and I have that Wolverine one. So I still like them, but I'm just not trying to hunt them all down and go crazy on them like I was. You know, it's changed a lot. All the little sets and things that I set out for myself, they kind of morphed around. There for a while, I had all the zeros. I was going after all the zero runs. You remember that?
I remember your contest, yeah.
Yeah. And so I let a lot of those go because I ended up with like the zero version of Task Force. I'm like, who cares? You know? Like, no one wants that, you know.
Yeah. They did that zeros, and you know, and if you want to take that to a ridiculous degree, I mean, I think there was like, was it Wizard or somebody did a bunch of zero issues, and ash cans that were zeros. Forget it. Well, okay, you want to take a few questions here?
Yes, please.
All right. I don't know if this question is for us, but TMC Comics says, who here owned the $6 Million Man action figure? I had it as a kid, but I haven't had that in 40 years.
So my brother had it when he was a kid, and he was a little older than me. So by the time I got it, the only thing that I had left was his right arm, which had the kung fu grip or whatever, right? You would push push the little plate on his arm, and it would snap his hand shut.
Yeah.
And I also had his head, which was hard plastic, and had like an eyeball. One eyeball was glass, and on the back end you could see through it, and it would like do a fisheye, and you could look through his head and see a fisheye kind of scene. And so that's all I owned of the $6 Million Man was his head and his arm. So I think at that point it was maybe a $500,000 man. I don't know, maybe more.
No, maybe, who knows? At that point, it was just a dollar bin man. Yeah, I actually got a little bit better than you. I had actually the engine block. I don't know if you remember that, Bub. He had an engine block that he would press to show his massive strength. So I had that until about 20 years ago. I found it in a little box of keepsakes.
Oh,
but
wow.
other than that, I haven't had a million. And I did have that little. He had like a capsule that he would go into, I guess, to be repaired. And I did have that. Yeah.
All that was destroyed by the time it got to me. That thing was in pieces.
Yeah, but that's it. DS, any $6 Million Man history with you?
Any of action figure stuff? Is what you're asking? I mean, I had a fair number of GI Joes, and I sent off the little membership thing, and I got the little membership packet back, which had some special sort of stuff in it, and it came with the color changing chameleon GI Joe and some other fancy little like rare action figure I got through that club. I have no idea what happened to them. Those have been lost to time. And fortunate because I had all the GI Joe stuff, and I also had all the Transformers.
Wow, Generation 1?
Generation 1, I had all of them. I mean, they started coming out in like 84 or something, and that was great when I was a kid into those, and I had them all. I mean, there was a couple I was missing, but I mean, I went back to my parents' house and I found most of those. There may still be some there, or some of them I gave away or they broke, or whatever happens to toys when you're a kid. But I did manage to salvage the entire Predaking. The Predakings form, or I guess there are 5 Predacons that form the Predaking.
Yeah,
I remember those, the Transformers version of Voltron, and I actually sold that about 2 years ago. I listed it on an Etsy shop I had at the time for like $125, and it sold in like an hour. And,
wow!
Those Generation 1s are hot.
Yeah, and I sold a bunch of other ones individually that weren't, they were used and sort of beat up. So I mean, I used them. They were most of the connections were loose, but the Predaking I kept. This shows you how OCD it was even as a kid. I think I showed you where I have those instruction booklets still.
Yep, you did.
Yeah, I used to save all the little accessories, the little guns, the little hands, the little weapons, the missiles that come out of those little shooters on all these little toys. I would keep them all in little Ziploc bags and label them, and I would keep them with my toys. And so I didn't lose any of the accessories. I was very OCD, and I kept them all in little bags. So I even had those when I went and got them. I had all the little.
You're a rare breed, DS. A rare breed.
You know what I had?
Those little missiles. Those got lost under furniture and yards everywhere.
I still have missiles that I don't know what they go to because I couldn't find the toys, but I found these little bags with missiles.
Usually it's the other way around.
I don't know what they go to, but they're from Gen 1 Transformers, I think.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right.
I had a Tupperware or Rubbermaid trash can in my room, and that was filled with toys. And at the bottom would be all the guns and all the knives and all the missiles, and everything would all sift its way to the bottom. So I would take the blanket off my bed, lay it on the floor in my room, and dump the entire canister upside down on top of it and shake it until it all emptied out. And then I'd have all the guns would now sift down to the bottom of the sheet. And then I would take every toy and put it back into the bin until I was left with the sheet covered in guns and knives and missiles. So that's how I wish I had that kind of organization when I was younger, but I just didn't. So mine was just piles. What a mess.
All right. Simeon is asking a question, which I bet you Bub probably knows this better than you and I, DS. Odds of seeing the Super Wang in year 1.
slim to moderately sized. I don't know. I think probably not.
Is that the Superman bulge that he's talking about? Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, they're talking about there's a Black Label Superman starting. So the idea is floating around that, well, we saw, Batwang last year, so maybe we'll see, or this year, maybe we'll see a Super Wang this year, which they don't have a name for yet, but I think it's probably going to be Super Wang.
Yeah,
so,
the Batwang made splashes among collectors, and it was sort of a positive thing because everybody went after it, and it was a cool little thing. But I think from the marketing standpoint, Batwang was a disaster for DC, and they did not like it, even though we collectors did like it. I think if you step outside the collecting circles, the marketing of that, I don't think they liked that it went out. I think they got negative PR for it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Also, I felt like it was a ploy to upstart Wolverine, which I thought every time there was a big Wolverine title, like Wolverine's Return came out that same day, and everyone thought that was going to be the big book to get that day. And then it turned out everybody was going after Batman instead. And they did it to him twice with Batman titles. So I think that they were trying to upstart Marvel with that as well.
Yeah, it was a Batman Damned, right?
Yeah.
I think that probably, and I haven't compared to other things, but I guarantee this is right, that Batman Damned has set a record for most 9/9s and most 10/0s on the census.
Yeah, I think so.
It's triple digits for both of those. So I'm sure that's a record for any book ever been graded by CGC.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
All right, here's the next one, guys. This is a Kenny from Comic Head 84 is coming up with this one. We gotta put our collective heads together for this one. I read that Batman will become public domain in less than 10 years. What effect will that have on comics, TV, and movies?
Okay, so let's start with the predication that is probably true. So we'll just start with that. That way we don't get into the debate of all the copyright stuff.
I doubt that is true because DC is not going to let their cash cow go into the public domain. But that's not an argument we can make right now without getting a lot of legalese. So.
Right. So instead of that, we'll just assume it's true and go from there.
Right.
I don't know, DS. What do you think? You hate you love Tech Comics until Batman shows up, and then you won't touch them. So what do you?
I tell you, I'm working on my run of Tech 1 through 26. I don't have any of them yet, but it's going to be a much easier run to complete than people who are into the Batman runs because I only have to get 26 issues. So that's a plus. Yeah, I think you can renew a copyright. I mean, I think it runs out if you're not using it. But I think if it's in active use, you can actively renew it and then you're good. I don't think any amount of time gets rid of a copyright if it's an active use and you maintain it like that. I think that's the case. With patents, it's a different idea because patents are deemed to be products or processes that are useful in the world, and at some point it's better for the market and for the consumers to have more options on that. But you want to encourage people to invent things, and the way you do that is with a profit incentive. You give them a monopoly on the product or the process for a specific period of time. That provides the encouragement for people to go out and invent stuff because they can get rich off it in the beginning. But after a while, they've got what they were due, and it's done its job in encouraging invention. Now it's time for the market to have competition on this product or process and develop it further and hopefully go that way. But with copyrights, it's not the same thing. It's sort of an intellectual property of, like an image or character in fiction or something that's totally different. That's not like, you don't need competition on that to better the market fit. I'm not 100% on that, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that there's a dispute over ownership rights or things like that, but ultimately the courts will decide that somebody will have that, and DC will either license them or have them bought outright. There's no way they're going to let that lapse into public domain. There's no way. 0% chance.
But in any case,
that's really complicated stuff, though. And if you're trying to get a copyright on something or a patent on something, which I've looked into in the past, I've never gone far with it, but super, super complicated stuff. And it's not like you can just, as a a regular person go research the laws on this stuff. It's impossible. It's like there's two areas of that stuff that if you go try to research, you get nowhere. One is the tax code, and one is like patents and copyrights.
Yeah, that's why attorneys specialize in that. They do nothing else because it is so complicated in both those fields
and lucrative. So there you go. To answer your question, we're not worried about it. But in general, I think the underlying answer that both DS and Roger are also giving is that we would kind of want it to stay at home. You want it to be unlike something that you're hoping someone will improve upon with new technologies and new ideas. We'd rather see this type of property stay with its creators. That way it can just continue to grow in what it already is, as opposed to some drastic reincarnation, like Nightfall or something, We don't want any of that.
No.
So, all right, you got any more there, Roger, or did they give up on us? What do you got?
Let's see here. Let's see. Well, Batcave is saying he hasn't seen a video from you lately, DS. Or
I was trying to do one every week, and it's just life happens, and it's hard for me with my life and work schedule now is a little different than it was last year. Last year, I could crank out video once a week. I even had a couple weeks where I did 2 videos. Now it's a little harder for me to get that one a week. So I try to make regular content. But yeah, it's probably been 2 weeks. The last one I did was a Heroes Con haul, and I went to Heroes Con 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I mean, I try to I'll get another one out there. It's just, I don't get a lot of them out there as regularly as I used to. But it is what it is.
Well, we enjoy seeing your content. That's for sure. Everyone enjoys it. I look forward to. It's funny because there's so many parts of other people's channels that I really like. Mike does the figures and stuff over at Area 51. Century Stir-Fi does a lot of statues too, and I love seeing that stuff. And so I put out a video, almost an homage video to their videos, and it got like 7 views. like no one wants to see me talking about figures or statues or anything like that. If I put Golden Age Hall in the title, I get like 20 views. Nobody wants to see that. So everybody complains that not complains, but I hear often, he does haul videos, and when are you gonna do more than haul videos? But when I do something other than a haul video, like nobody wants to see it. So
yeah, and also Gretzky is throwing out here something that's accurate. Like, yeah, I haven't done a video on my channel in 2 weeks, but I do 2 videos every week, and one is this, and one is tomorrow night on the Golden Guys, the Golden Age show that we do. Me and Knights of Old and JD, and usually Paul's on Midwest Comic Man's on there. But yeah, so I'm putting out 2 videos on other people's channels, and I try to participate in as many live chats as I can. And my channel is putting out less content than I'm putting out on other people's channels, essentially. But
all right, now listen to this, guys. This Mike from Knights of Old is giving us a toughie here. Which of the top 5 to 10 DC and Marvel heroes will fall into obscurity first in the far future, 40 years?
I think it's the Flash.
Wow.
And I love the Flash. I really do. But that property, the Flash property, has been mishandled in so many different ways. It doesn't get good readership either. Do you ever see anyone showing, well, maybe you guys don't if you don't watch a lot of modern hauls, but no one ever picks up the Flash. Like Green Lantern's having a resurgence, so I don't think it'll be Green Lantern. Wonder Woman has had a resurgence with popular movies. You've got Batman for sure, and Superman. They're not going anywhere. So to me, the one missing in that group is the Flash. And I just don't think that the Flash has been served well by DC in the comics. He also hasn't been served well, I don't think, in the TV. Even though the modern TV show is kind of popular, it got really muddled and is losing viewers. And the guy that plays him, for most comic book lovers, the Flash show doesn't really do it for them. And that I've seen, that I've talked to people, everyone kind of feels about like I do about it. It's okay, but it doesn't seem like the Flash, And then you have the same issue with the movies that they mishandled him in that. So there hasn't been a good Flash property since John Wesley Shipp's 90s version of the Flash. Wow. That was the last time I think the Flash has been handled properly. And it hasn't been handled well since in print or in other media. And I think when a company starts doing that, the next thing will be they'll make some big dramatic change, and then the character will fall into, you know, obscura. So that's what I think. What's y'all's guess on that?
Well, I mean, to think about that, the thing that makes characters popular and on an ongoing basis is that they're relatable to younger people who are going out to buy comics. Now, obviously, Flash #1 is always going to be collectible, but that's not because people like the Flash. It's because that's a golden age collectible historical piece of art. You know, think about what characters are popular now because they have a mass appeal to sort of like the cultural sort of values or situation, and how that might change in 30 or 40 years. I see characters like Deadpool and Harley Quinn maybe falling off because they were exceedingly popular at the, you know, early part of the 90s through now, and it coincides with a sort of you know, I could be way off base here, but sort of like a rebel sort of youthful version, and just sort of the way they talk, especially Deadpool with his mouth and his sarcasm and his humor and the violence, and sort of there's a cool factor that those two characters have that relates to young people from, like, you know, early 90s to today, you know, for the last 25 years or so. Is that going to be the same type of personality traits and characters and look that's relatable to young people 40 years from now? I think maybe not, because that type of appeal and that type of those traits among young people change from generation to generation. Now, I don't know, it's not good or bad, it's just is what it is. Harley Quinn would not appeal to young people in the 60s because they were looking for more of like a, you know, it was more of like a hippie sort of drug, anti-Vietnam movement. There's a lot of things that were underpinning that sort of cultural movement of young people, as opposed to like the 90s till now. This generation really relates to characters like Harley Quinn and Deadpool. Now, the next generation, 25 years from now, is going to relate to different values and a different look and a different personality style than those two characters probably have. So I don't see those characters being perennial, all-time favorites forever. They will always be collectible because they're having a huge impact on the culture in this 25-year period that we're in. But 40 years from now, I don't see them being relatable, because I don't think they would have been relatable 25 years prior either. And, you know, each generation has its different type of superhero or character traits that they relate to. And I think those are fairly narrow, although they hit the nail on the head in this generation. So I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about half the time, though, but you know, I mean, it makes a little sense. I feel like
nor do any of us really. By the way, Bub, you just made a big enemy in Rod the Rican. He gave you a thumbs down.
That he's giving the Flash show a thumbs down, I think, saying it was no longer good. That's what I think. The Flash show he was going to. But either way, look, you asked me for a top 5 character to basically kill. So I was going to make enemies.
Yeah, you know, listen. Unlike Bob, I'm going to preface my answer. This is not personal. I bet you JPL he and I are going to be working on a video soon. James, if you're watching this on Rewind, I love you, buddy. I have nothing personal against you, okay? But my pick would be Daredevil. Okay, in the history of Daredevil, there hasn't really, there hasn't really been, since the Frank Miller era that I recall, a really great storyline. His comics are constantly being rebooted. The movie was a disaster. The show was canceled. Of course, that may be for reasons other than viewership, right? But the character itself, I mean, there's a lot of redundancy there with, Batman and Spider-Man. So, in 40 years, is he going to be as relevant as those characters? I doubt it. So, to me, that would be the choice. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad character. Let me just put that right off the bat. But, Mike put us on the spot here, right? So in order to give a cogent answer and of some rationale, that would be my pick.
I think the shock value for Daredevil has worn off. You know, the novelty of having a blind superhero is something that now we just take for granted because everyone can have superpowers, and it's just, you know, there's mutants out there and there's all kinds of stuff. But, you know, I think that the idea of Daredevil was very revolutionary in its time. And
Absolutely.
now it just seems kind of like, well, that doesn't really make sense. You know, my wife, she watches Daredevil show, and she's like, I don't get it. Like, really, he's blind. He's not blind. Why is he even pretend to be blind? He might as well just wear regular sunglasses and walk around all day not blind. Like, as Matt Murdock, why is he even pretending to be blind? Because now he's just making an act. Why? To hide that he's Daredevil? Nobody cares. You know, she just doesn't get it. It just doesn't translate for her. And I think that makes sense. You know, in modern time, it's hard. So I could see that for Daredevil. It just doesn't make sense anymore. Not the way it used to. It doesn't have that shock value. Like, I don't know, if you were like, you know, a woman who can drive, like that might also be you know, shocking, you know?
Yeah, but, you know, again, you know, society moves forward. Like, and I'm not even, I didn't even talk about that aspect, Bub, but although you're right on. I mean, you're right on. I mean, nowadays you look at these disabilities and the powers that occur to sort of, you know, either compensate or overcompensate for them. You know, some people may not have physical disabilities. They may have mental disabilities. There's all kinds of, you know, parts of our lives which are not, you know, perhaps, you know, of a maximum level, right? And Daredevil is one of those characters which, again, I think it's a pretty good character. Don't get me wrong. So, but I'm just thinking, if you're thinking 40 years out, right? What you're saying is it's gonna be diminished even further at that point. I'm not gonna be around, guys, when that happens. I guarantee you. All right, I'm not gonna be around. So 40 years from this date, when I'm 95, right? I'm no longer gonna have to be worrying about the repercussions of the statements I make today. That I have, as you know, I can find solace in that. But I think that at that point, other characters, you know, that are more dynamic, that have a better relationship with the audience at that time, will trump the Daredevil of today.
Yeah, and then, you know, there's another way to sort of think about if you want to collect something or think about what's going to be big in 25 years or 35 or 40 years or whatever. You know, these comics are popular, and these characters and storylines are popular based on what appeals to the current culture and society, and a lot of that has to do with like what's going on in the world. Like in the 1930s and 1940s, the Orient, the jungle, South America, like the Amazon, and outer space, even going to the moon, those were exotic areas that were, you know, a lot of people had a lot of wonder about them and curiosity. We didn't know anything, could be anything. And so comics had a lot of the jungle themed stuff, space themed stuff. It was very popular. You know, once you now can explore the jungle on Discovery Channel every night, and they have documentaries about every animal and the Amazon and the jungles in Africa and the coastlines on Southeast Asia. It's all pretty well known. You know, you don't see a lot of jungle comics. You don't see a lot of comics about the Orient, which nobody even uses that word anymore.
Well, now you're just making me mad, because let me tell you something. I watch National Geographic, and I watch the Animal Channel, and I watch Discovery Channel, and I still don't see a leopard bikini clad woman fighting a tiger. And until I see that, you know,
right, in the 1940s,
I'm going to keep buying those comics.
In the 1940s, it's quite possible that was in the jungle, but nobody's been deep enough into it to find it. So it's quite possible.
Let me tell you.
But you know, think about, like,
I'm going to look.
We're going further into space and more. You know, our exploration into space is just at the very outset. We reached the moon in '69. That's really not that long ago. You know, as more interesting stuff is found out about space and the universe and like quantum physics and stuff like that, that's going to be sort of a more wondrous area for young people than the jungle or the Orient. So I see, like, this is why, like, cosmic, if you made a Guardians of the Galaxy or anything on the Infinity Wars in the 80s, it wouldn't have been as good. I mean, those were good storylines in comics, and they're memorable because they were so different than a lot of stuff. Fantastic Four really was cosmic before there really was anything else. Everything else was pretty terrestrially based, and then Fantastic Four is in space. And, you know, now you've got almost people are speculating on the cosmic storylines in Marvel. It's really going in that direction. So I think anything cosmic, Silver Surfer, any of those characters, they'll introduce new books and new titles and new characters, based on that type of exploration. It's sort of like wherever the cutting edge of man's exploration is what stokes the interest in society, because that's cutting edge, and we're an explorer type species. So I think wherever the cutting edge of that is where the fiction and the art is going to be very popular ongoing. And like Daredevil, New York City guy, running around fighting crime blind. It doesn't have as much impact as maybe it did in the 60s. So that's why it's probably not that popular. That's just my thoughts on it. So I think the cosmic stuff, that's why people are so primed up about the cosmic storylines, because it's getting to a point where that's like the cusp of human exploration is cosmic stuff. So it ties in perfectly with cultural interest.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Anything that's unexplored, unknown, novel, that's what comics wants to get into. Yeah.
Well, they say that like 80% of the world's oceans are still yet unexplored, and still nobody buys an Aquaman book. So, I'm saying, he's got a hit movie, and whatever, he's played by some kind of beefcake, right? But nobody's still buying that comic. So I don't know about all that.
That's another one we could have probably talked about. I
didn't think it was high enough on the list to knock off.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider that a part of 10. Yeah, that's right. I mean, even to me, Daredevil is on the cusp of the Marvel top 10. So
yeah, but Aquaman is more popular now than he's ever been, if you think about it. For real, I mean,
that's not saying
he never was really all that popular. I mean, he was in a couple teams or whatever, but he never was a real popular character. He's more popular now than he's ever been, I think.
I would agree, but that doesn't vault him into a higher strata. I think he's still middling in the C to D character range. I mean, look, you had Iron Man. To me, was and I know some of the more Silver Age lovers would say Iron Man was a major character. But for me, growing up, Iron Man was definitely a B or C character. And then he had a movie, and that brought him up to the A-list. And he's stayed there ever since. Now, you have Aquaman, who was a C or D character. He had a movie, and now he's a C or D character. It did not catapult him up and keep him in another group. He's still where he started.
Well, the movies have definitely catapulted Iron Man way up in popularity, and it's not just the movies. They made the movies because they were able to do the special effects, and again, a cutting edge area of human exploration is robotics, and that's really blossoming in the last 10 years, and that's given more of a creative spin to how they can do the movies and what to make it look like. And robotics is a cutting edge exploration field, sort of, and Iron Man is tailor-made for the robotics industry, because he pretty much puts that thing on and he's wearing a robot. So yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it too. And it's not that they couldn't do the special effects before. Even it's that they didn't think to do them either. Like now, you think to do things with his suit that wouldn't have occurred to people 50 years ago, to do. So I think that's also part of it.
Yeah. Aquaman is kind of an unusual character in that he was one of the few characters that actually existed from the Golden Age and never was changed up through the Bronze Age. It was the same character, like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Yet he didn't have his own comic until the 60s, his own title. Yeah. So it's a very odd character that way. It's almost like he was hanging on by his fingernails, and never let go. Somehow crawled up off the up on the ledge, and was able to stand with those giants.
Well, I think part of the problem for me with Aquaman, there's an image issue. He's got a bad manager, a bad agent, because he has not modernized his image in 80 years or whatever. Like the dude is
getting complicated now.
Here swimming around with a picture. Like you need to update your look, dude, because. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It needs to be a little cooler for the modern age than just, swimming around with shirtless with like a pitchfork. That's not good with a trident. That's not going to do it.
It's a trident, not a pitchfork.
I know.
He's not baling hay.
I'm with you, DS. I think part of the problem with all those
It's just not cool enough.
Yes,
it's not cool enough.
I think Namor has the same problem. I think anybody whose costume is basically like, you know, a one-piece short outfit, then yes, that's going to be an issue unless they're female, and then they're probably not going to make it to the big screen anyway. So when are we going to get Power Girl? When's Power Girl coming to the big screen? And I think that with the politics going on today and all that, I just don't see that she comes to the big screen in full effect. So
not with the window, chest window. No way.
Without the chest window.
Yeah.
Thank you to the late great Wally Wood. Without that
design,
without that design, what do you have? You got Supergirl. So I'm out.
Well, I'll tell you, there's plenty of room for female superheroes to gain popularity and exceed what Harley Quinn has done. And DC mismanages their movies in such a way that Wonder Woman they do more harm than good. But there's so many female characters that they could do so much with, and you're starting to see more, like a Wonder Woman, the Phoenix, Jean Grey, and you see, they'll do a She-Hulk movie, and if they do them right, the female characters are really gaining a lot of traction. So I think 40 years from now, some female characters that nobody remembers right now will be huge hits. Now I don't know who it's going to be. I mean, Wonder Woman is always popular. She's like the epitome of a female superhero. But maybe Power Girl. But you need to update these. You need to update the look, because this is a visual art as much as it is a story art. And you can have a great story, but if you don't have the look, it's not going to break through. So some of these female characters need an overhaul in their looks, but a lot of them are going to be really popular in the coming years. And look at Harley Quinn. She's not nearly the best. I mean, she's not really even a superhero, really. You know what I mean? She's just kind of a freaky chick.
She's an anti-hero, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, but she's
a sidekick is all she is. I don't know. She's a henchman is all she is.
She's a badass biker chick, really, is what she is, and she's cool as hell.
I like her. Her original character is best. She should just be someone who's lovesick for the Joker. She's a sycophant for him, and that's it. And the only reason why she's bad is because she's in love with someone who's clearly evil, and he kind of allows her to do bad things, and he only appreciates her when she's doing bad things.
And that's what I'm saying. Look how popular she is, and all she has is that she's just super cool and badass. But you get somebody who's super cool and badass and looks the part and has superpowers, the sky's the limit. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Remember, Captain Marvel was a fairly popular movie, before, and I don't know, a lot of people are saying, well, because they're anticipating Infinity War, the finale, that was really the kind of the prequel, but that was a female character that I think, has gotten a lot of good reviews, really. I mean, considering, I think the movie was, okay. But I think that, the fact that they did a female lead and a superhero character other than Wonder Woman, I think that's a sign of the times. I think that's what DS is saying, that if you have a character that has that other dimension and has, that you know c'est quoi, you can take that and run with a franchise. And I think they're going to do a part 2. So I think it's happening as we speak.
Yeah, I'm telling you, She-Hulk is I mean, I tell you, 5 years from now, I'm going to be telling people I told you so on She-Hulk, because, they did Hulk movies before it was time to do Hulk movies, and they pretty much sucked. I think the only one that likes them is me.
I like him.
I still love the Jet Li, or is it Jet Li, or what's that Korean director? It's not Jet.
It's not Jet Li.
Well, I know.
Ang Lee.
I was close.
He did the Hulk.
Oh, you're all over it. Yeah. I think it's his cousin.
Ang Lee Hulk, but I'm probably the only one that likes it. But they do Hulk now as part of the Avengers, but not as a standalone thing. They'll do a She-Hulk, and it will. If they do it right in the movie, it'll stoke more interest in the comics. That can be a huge character, She-Hulk.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
I agree.
Yeah, totally agree. And she has, and I keep telling you, people on my channel, that She-Hulk #1 that comic has all the attributes of a major hit. Every single check mark it hits. Okay, so get it now while it's under, what is it, $30, $40? I have no idea about values, by the way, so don't ask me.
She-Hulk #1's gone up just in the past 12 months. It's almost doubled in price. You used to be able to get it between 20 and 30, and now it's a solid $50 to $75 book.
Yeah, but you can get a 9/8 white pages Savage She-Hulk 1 for like $300 or something.
Yeah, which to DS is a steal.
That is a steal, dude. That's like a first
to me, I'm like, I've never paid more than $100 for any comic.
Dude, I'm telling you, for a 9/8 white pages bronze first appearance for $300, dude, you can't even get a Beta Ray Bill first appearance for that. That's twice as much, and that's Beta Ray Bill. You know what I mean? She's way bigger than Beta Ray Bill.
He appeared as a head in the Thor armor, right? The Thor movie.
Yeah, Ragnarok.
He was one of the busts up there.
Yeah.
And after that, the comic blows up.
Yeah. So Man from Beantown saying She-Hulk 1/9/8 is $400. So that means it's going for $400. You can sit out a deal for a little under that or pay a little more. But name another Bronze Age first appearance of a superhero that you can get in a 9/8 white pages for $400. It's unheard of.
Yeah.
It's only dirt cheap for a superhero first appearance in the
appearance. Yeah.
You can't
again. Let me check off what that character does. Right. First appearance, #1 issue in her own title. Buscema art, Lee writing, Hulk a guest appearance, and not in the 70s. That's that's it. You're talking about everything that can possibly happen for a comic to say this is a hit.
And bell bottoms on the cover.
And bell bottoms on the cover. Yeah, there you go.
You can't miss that point. That's important.
Yeah. So I agree. I mean, I would have rather have gotten when it was like, I remember that comic. Those were in 50-cent bins for decades. I could have gotten 150 of them, no problem. And then all of a sudden, speculation market comes and they're untouchable.
Yeah, I mean, it's still fairly cheap, but you're not going to pick them out of dollar bins now. Nobody passes those up on dollar bins anymore. But you go on eBay or you still look around at cons, you can still find pretty cheap near mint copies of She-Hulk 1. I mean, if you just want a 9/0, you can probably get one for under $100 graded.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I like that book. I was glad to pick mine up last year when I got it at a con, and I was very lucky because I had missed out on a couple of auctions, and then all of a sudden the price just seemed to be skyrocketing. And then I went to a con that same weekend. I had missed out on that book 3 times that prior week trying to buy it in auction. And just the prices were higher. Each time I lost in the auction, the price went up like $15. I was like, are you kidding me? And then finally I got to the point where it was, I quit. I was like, really? It's like $65. I was like, this was $20 last week. I swear it was. And now it's $65. I give up. And I went to a con and I was like, that's it. If I see one, I'm buying it. If it's under 50, I'm buying it. And I got it for like 25. I was like, yeah. Yeah,
I'll give you another good pick based on what I was saying about robotics and stuff. I think 2 good undervalued books right now that they will eventually start putting out new titles on, and they will join teams and they will appear in movies is Machine Man and Rom. Those are 2 good ones that tie into the sort of the look and the feel of that type of stuff.
Yep.
And, it's just a matter of they're going to invent new superhero teams. There's going to be new titles coming out. There's going to be new stuff all the time, new movies, new books. Machine and Rom are both really good picks for if you just want a spec generally, more of an investment than a spec. But those are still pretty cheap. I remember I picked up a Machine Man. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I picked up a Machine Man 1 for $1. And I didn't know anything about pressing at the time. I just sent it to the CGC with some other books, just as I found it. And it came back in 9/8. And I kept it for a few years, and I sold it like 2 years ago for $100. So I was really happy. I got a huge profit on it. But I probably should just held on to it anyway. But I think that book's gone up a little bit. You can still get them for $15 or $20. But
and that's not a first appearance.
No, it's not even a first appearance. It's just first in his own title. But
first solo,
issue 9 or whatever. What is his first
8.
appearance?
2001: Space Odyssey 8.
8. Okay, so yeah, issue 8. If you get that and Machine Man 1, and just get high grade copies and just get like 2 or 3 high grade copies of that and just tuck them away and don't touch them for 10 years. I think you'll make a good amount of profit on those.
Well, I think that speaks also to Roger's point where he's talking about She-Hulk 1 being kind of a perfect nexus of all those things, because when you look at it from that perspective, there's only one book, and it's self-titled, and it's first appearance, no prior cameo, no nothing. You know, everything is contained and focused on one book. And I like that personally. That's why I like Daredevil 1 as a long-term key. You know, Daredevil 1, self-titled, first appearance, in his own book. That's it. You know, there's no prior cameos or whatever you want to call it.
There's no cover appearance. There's no last page appearance. There's no, you know, Marvel Spotlight appearance. That's it.
Yep. Undisputed. And you don't have to split your money like you do on Machine Man between a first appearance and a first self-titled number one. You don't have to split your money there. Which
like Warlock will drive you insane. I mean, is it a cocoon? Is it a hand? Is it a him? Is it a, you know what?
Yeah, I mean,
like 5 or 6 that could be his first appearance.
Yeah, Reggie did a good video trying to navigate and explain the branches of the tree that are the set of first appearances for Warlock, and there's a whole bunch of books. Yeah,
Mr. Miracle did a good one too. He had the books and everything he showed. But that's the antithesis of what we're saying here, is that She-Hulk #1 and like Nova #1, Daredevil those are rock solid, no doubt hits, because there's nowhere else you can go. There's no vacillation, and there's no side road. That's it. Boom.
Yeah, and I think some of the creature heroes are really gaining in popularity, and you know, with special effects in movies, I don't like movie spec, but obviously that is an undeniable part of this hobby at this point.
Yeah.
With the way they are able to make realistic sort of creatures and monsters in horror movies and sci-fi movies and whatever. You got characters like Swamp Thing, Man Thing, the Heap from way back in the Golden Age. You got a whole slew of those type of characters. There's a whole bunch of unknown ones out there that you can go after that will, you know, sort of make appearances and in the future or gain popularity, and they're good books to hold on to.
Well, here's one I'll throw out there that bothers me. So here's Taskmaster, right? So now this also has a cameo and stuff. We won't get into all that in 195. But the idea for me is that this has been one of my favorite. Taskmaster is one of my favorite villains, mostly because I absolutely love his origin story. And I have said to friends anyway that if I was ever a villain, like everyone talks about what superpowers they would be, well, what if you had to be a villain? And if I had to be a villain, I always said I think I would be Taskmaster. Like that would be the villain I would want to be. I don't want to rob banks. I don't want to do all this stuff. I would like to train other people to go take their risks, you know, and do what they thought they needed to do to get money. Meanwhile, basically cashing in off of them, make a business out of being a bad guy as opposed to a life of crime. So that's what I always liked about Taskmaster. I liked how quirky he was. I liked how he liked to run away from a fight as opposed to get into one, that he used his powers kind of reluctantly, that he would rather not engage because he liked preservation. He was a preservation. He wanted to live. Above all, he just wanted to live his life. So I really like that about Taskmaster. Now he's about to be a key villain in a movie.
Right. Black Widow, right?
Yeah. And so 2 things happen. One is, thankfully, of course, I already own the book. He's one of my favorite characters. But when the book got hot all of a sudden, and the price of this book went, you know, Beta Ray Bill style, and just went nuts. When that happened, people were like, oh, now everyone's a Taskmaster fan. I was like, but I really was a Taskmaster fan. Nobody will believe you at that point.
No.
You know, I start referencing old videos. Like, man, just watch a video I put out like a year ago. I talked about how great he was. Nobody gives a crap. Then the other thing that happens is that now there's a good chance that Marvel is going to completely screw this character up. Because when I look at a character like this, he looks like a warrior. He looks like someone who's, you know, badass. He's going to come to town and maybe part pirate or knight or who knows what he is. And I could definitely see Marvel taking this and just saying, okay, we like the look and we like his superpower. Let's give him a new backstory. Let's give him a new, you know, personality. Let's let him, you know, want him to lead teams and really be malicious and evil, which he's not. you know, so let's do that with them. And I could just see them doing that. So I like cringe when I think about this character becoming popular in movies, because I just feel like there's no way they're going to do him service. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. So,
well, he's definitely got the look. That's what I'm saying. He's got a really kick-ass look. So,
yeah, I'm always kind of wary about villains in movies anyway. I mean, yeah, Thanos. Yeah, I mean, but that was kind of the exception to the rule. But usually those are kind of quick in and outs. You know, once the movie is gone and the villain kind of goes down a little bit. I mean, maybe somebody can prove me wrong, but you know, even Iron Man 55 has gone down a little bit. You know, if you see ETA Nick's videos. So, you know, but I see what Bub is going with this, and I agree. I don't think that Taskmaster is a villain that they're gonna. Again, villain is kind of a catch-all, Bub. Okay,
yeah.
Because he's really more of a behind-the-scenes mastermind, I guess, than that. But you know, when the movie comes out, we'll see what they do with him. It looks a little funky in the movie. I saw some pictures. I don't know if that's canon or not, and it looks a little bit.
That's all pre-CGI. You know, a lot of the early photos they take, you know, is before they digitally added a butt to Brie Larson for for Captain Marvel. You know, so any of those real early production photos, I try and take them with a grain of salt, that they're going to make them look better.
Well, here's what I think about villains, and you have to be forward thinking, and that means a lot of times you're going to be wrong also, but sometimes you're going to be right before everyone else is. That's the other side of that. But you know, it's always been the thing that villains are not collectible. First appearance of villains is not going to be something collectible. It's the heroes we want. It's the heroes beating up the villains, and the villains are just that. Nobody's going to pay a lot of money for first appearance of villains because we want the heroes. That's always how it's been in comics. I think that paradigm is shifting a little bit. I don't know how far it will shift, but again, you really didn't have any anti-heroes until the Bronze Age. You know, Wolverine to an extent, because he just slays people left and right. He's got villain qualities to him for sure. You know, Deadpool, he doesn't even hold himself out as a hero, even though he ultimately falls on the right side of things. He does a lot of villainous actions to get there. The Punisher, you've got, you know, research, a sort of a birth of that type of, is he a hero or is he a villain? A little bit of both in the 70s. And now you got, like, again, Harley Quinn. Thanos is hugely popular, and he's a villain. He's not even the best villain in Marvel Universe or the most storied one, but Thanos has his own title. He's super popular. I've never seen popularity. There probably has never been popularity for a villain in the history of comics like there is now for Thanos. It's insane how popular he is. I can see, you know, some of the traditional heroes obviously are staples forever. Magneto, Doctor Doom, you know, those types. But I don't think you can just say as a blanket statement, villains will pop for movies and then shoot back down and they're never going to be collectible. I think people dig villains and they really like heroes that are partly villainous, and it's like a mix of both and you're unsure about them at any given time. I think that really has more appeal as time goes on. I could see villains really being much more popular and collectible in the future than in the past, for sure.
Let's talk about a villain then that people, I think, especially
Venom, Man from Beantown, Venom and Carnage. Yeah, Venom. I didn't even think of that. It's insanely popular as a villain.
Yeah, but then they made his biggest movie to date. He's a hero.
I know.
That's what I'll say. They kind of neuter them and make them. Yeah. They have hero characteristics. Even Thanos, you know, had, at least in the first Infinity, in not an Endgame, in Infinity, a lot of people were saying, yeah, I can sort of relate to what he's trying to accomplish here. There's a good, you know, maybe the means are a little rough, but I can see what the ends are. So, yeah. and in the comics, he just it was all, you know, selfish. He wanted to court death. He wanted to, you know, that was his motivation. So it's a little bit different when you're considering how they portray the villain. If they portray him as an anti-hero, I agree with you, Diaz, 100%. But as a straight villain, I don't know about that.
I think
but like Taskmaster, if they take Taskmaster and put him in a movie and put him in some new comics coming out and add to his, and the popularity takes, they will turn him in. They can change him at any time and the popularity will stick. So I don't think you can say that collecting the first Taskmaster is never going to be great because it's the first appearance of villain and it'll never be a first hero collectability or value. I mean, you don't know what they're going to do with them either. And, you know, villains become very popular, so popular that they turn them into heroes for a time, like Venom.
Yeah, but it also happens way when I look at what is it, Fantastic Four #5? What's the first appearance of Doctor Doom? Is it 5?
That's it.
Yeah, Fantastic Four #5, first appearance of Doctor Doom. That book is expensive, no doubt. But to me, it's still waiting for a movie to come out and do Doctor Doom some justice. But already we've had, what, 3 versions? We've already had Doctor Doom 3 times in movies in recent memory. So when are they going to do it right? The answer is maybe never. So,
that's true, but that's not a book that's waiting for a movie to have value. That's a solid value. I mean, he's one of the top. When you get to be a top 3 all-time villain in Marvel, you're collectible no matter what the movies do, and he's there.
My point is that's only from the comic side. So when you start talking about, you know, every other villain we've mentioned is kind of talking about what the media has able to transform a villain, change them into even to become so popular, and they have to change their backstories to give them heart and to give them some sort of dilemma, or that they were forced to be bad kind of stuff they didn't really want to be. And I think that kind of happens on the media side, not on the comic side. So in the comic side, you can have some pure evil out there. But in the media, it has to be more gray for it to be dramatic. And I think that's one of the reasons why they have failed Doctor Doom, because he is one of the more evil characters in all of comics. And so to give him that human side and the tragic backstory, and he's really just driven by his love of Sue Storm, and you know, it just ruins him as a character.
You got to do something new with him. They've got to stop relying on his backstory, and you know that's his origin. It always will be, but he can change through upcoming storylines and events to have sort of a, you know, he can be a hero for a time and then go back ultimately to be a villain. He can go back and forth and still be likable, and he's got him and Taskmaster look very similar in look, honestly, and they both have a look that just have to make it more dynamic as far as they're not just straight, like he initially was good and then he loves Sue Storm and he feels he got wronged and now he's going to be bad forever. You know, that's sort of simplistic. That's like a Silver Age Marvel story.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. Doctor Doom is a very complicated character at its core, but there's one thing about Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is in it for Doctor Doom. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Victor Von Doom, all machinations that he does are selfish, right? Some of them may be portrayed as helpful, but that's the short game. The end game is always going to be about him. And that's where Bub, I think, is saying, you know, you have to portray him as who he is, as a villain, right? Because it's all about him. Ultimately, if it's between him and anybody else, it's going to be him. And that has to come out. Absolutes are sometimes uncomfortable for people, but that is what made him who he is. To neuter him, to make him a villainous eunuch is really, you know, being, you know, honestly disingenuous to the character, and that's why it doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they did that with the Red Skull too. I mean, they had a couple Red Skulls in movies that were done. For anybody who's had any exposure to Golden Age Red Skull, it's a disservice that they just have an actor with a red rubber mask on. For one.
True.
Not to mention that he's just this hot-tempered, simple-minded warmonger. I mean, yeah, sort of that's what he is, but he's more innovative than that, and he's more monstrous than that for sure. I mean, he's not just, I don't know, you know what I mean? You gotta update it, and they don't do the Red Skull. I mean, and Doctor Doom, you know, they gave Magneto a lot of dimension. He's a very likable villain in the X-Men movies. Say what you want about the movies, but he's got a side that he is on the side of mutants. He's trying to help people. He just doesn't agree with Professor X how to do it. He's got a likable side. Thanos, you can almost relate to what he's trying to do, but he's gone too far by just wiping people out by snapping his fingers. But not an altogether bad idea, sort of, you know what I mean? you can add another dimension to these characters without changing who they are and changing them from villains. And if they do that with Doctor Doom, it'll be monstrously more popular than it is even now.
I agree. And I think that certain villains you should step lightly and try to make sure that you don't overdo their retcon backstory. You know, if you can, keep it simple, keep it as close to the comics as you can, and hell, make it, you know, hazy and unknown. Whatever happened to that? Who cares what their motivation for being evil is? Introduce them as evil today. Tell me that they've been evil for a while and that they're good at being evil, and that's all that I need to know for the hero to get into action. I don't need to know their tragic backstory. You know, I'm so sick of the Joker.
Okay, I'm with you on this one, Bub. I am 100% with you on this one.
He's the best villain ever, though. He's the top villain of all time in comics.
Best evil villain. I don't care anything about him taking care of his elderly grandmother or his elderly girlfriend or whoever that lady is that he's giving sponge baths to. I just don't care. I don't want to see him as anything but an incarnation of evil. And really, you know, and that's really more of like a Neil Adams, you know, creation of the Joker, you know, post 66 Batman camp, you know, where he was kind of given carte blanche to redo the Joker and make him just a psychopath. That's the Joker I like. Just leave him that, and I don't need any of this backstory. One of the reasons why I think Heath Ledger's Joker worked so well, and I'm not a huge fan of that incarnation of the Joker, but I think one of the things that worked best with it was that they played with the audience the whole time saying, hey, we're going to give you this tragic backstory. We're going to give it to you. And then you find out really that you never get it, that it's just a mixed hodgepodge of him being crazy, and you never really get why you should feel sorry for the Joker. It's great in that, you know? Yeah, and so to give me an hour-and-a-half backstory to then have him put on a green wig for the last 5 minutes of the movie just is not going to be good for me. I'm not even going to go see that movie. But anyway, that's a little off topic. But I'm sick of the Joker, and that's why. Because they're trying to make me fall in love with the Joker all over again. I'm done. That's it. Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
Wow, what a diatribe that was! But
yeah,
I'm kind of like you though, in a sense that I'm kind of over him. You know, it's like there have been so many incarnations of the Joker now that I don't even know. You know, is it Jack Nicholson? Is it the Phoenix guy? You know, it's very confusing, and everything was so. There was no relatability to any of those. You know, maybe the Jack Nicholson one a little bit because he was just manic and just psychotic, but the Joker has just been overdone. I think to put him in the Suicide Squad because of Harley Quinn, I kind of get that, but that was a terrible rendition of not the actor, but of the Joker character. That it just turned me off from now on. I don't want to see that movie at all. You're right. I just put it away.
It's tough to do a Batman movie without a Joker though, because it's hard to think of Batman without Joker. I mean, that's why they took a couple movies off from the Joker. You know, they had Bane in the one and Ra's al Ghul, and then they went back to the Joker, and then they did the Joker again, and then they did the Suicide Squad with the Joker. So I could do without. There's a lot of other stuff in the Batman universe a lot of other villains.
Move on.
They try the other one and they screw them up like the Scarecrow and Two-Face. I mean, what the hell are they doing, man? You know what I mean? A Scarecrow's the Scarecrow? Are you kidding me?
I mean, you got Batman has such an incredible rogues gallery. I mean, the Joker, yeah, like Bub was saying, you know, before he was just more of a mischievous, you know, kind of irritant, and then he became psychotic and murderous and dangerous. But you know, there are so many. You know, you have so many. Ra's al Ghul and the whole League of Assassins. You have all those great tie-ins with the Court of Owls that were very recent. You know, there are so many good storylines out there to be told. You know, the Joker could, you know, like you said, in 20 years, let's see him. But for now, put him on the back burner. Let's see something fresh and new and exciting and dynamic.
Yeah.
Man from Beantown's got right sort of with diabolical traps. Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, they did the Jim Carrey Riddler, and that was kind of goofy in a Tim Burton-y kind of way.
Yeah, very campy.
You can make these characters, you can even change the look. Like the Riddler doesn't need to be wearing a tight green suit with question marks all over it. You know what I mean? He can just be a guy who wears a green suit and is just diabolical and evil and has, like, you know, murderous traps that he sets. And you can do a lot more with the Riddler, and it can be really creepy as hell. And, you know, the Penguin, you can grant them artistic license to make the Penguin not a roly-poly Dan DeVito. Or Mr. Freeze doesn't have to be like, I mean, obviously he should never be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but another movie that I absolutely love, by the way, is Batman and Robin with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Creepiest movie ever. That movie is freaking phenomenal. I love it.
You're kidding me, right?
I don't think watch it every time it's on. The right drugs to enjoy that movie. I must have missed
so bad.
I did acid here, and I didn't. So something happened, and I didn't get that movie at all. Even as a kid, I hated that movie.
Yeah, Pope says you just need a question mark logo on a business card for the Riddler. Yeah, that's all you need. You don't have to take the image directly from 1940s Batman comics. You can update it, and he can just be like a business type suit, but he has a business card that he shows, and it has a question mark on it, and that can be just like a creepy calling card. That's the Riddler. Doesn't have to look like the 1940s Riddler. But I would appreciate if the Scarecrow looked a little more like the 1940s Scarecrow. I think that would be cool.
I want to see Batman and Clayface in a "Where You Been, Bro" hug. That's what I want to see. And until we get that, I'm checking out too. And I also think that the wave of the future for villains, even though we're seeing some of it now, it's not being done very well. And also for heroes will be CGI characters. I think one of the reasons why Beta Ray Bill's coming around is because you don't have to have a man behind the mask. And for any of these characters where you don't have this alter ego where they're playing, then you don't have to cast some big name talent. You can just go for whatever works for the story and not have to play in like Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. And I know everyone loves Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, but I get sick of seeing Robert Downey Jr.'s face. Me, you don't have to see his stupid face. You can have Iron Man without Tony Stark. I mean, I know that in the comics there's a lot of dichotomy there too, but as far as a team member for the Avengers, you don't have to have Tony Stark in any Avengers. You can just have Iron Man all the time, in suit all the time. You know, I think that obviously alter egos, there's a lot of that goes on. You got Peter Parker and everything like that. But honestly, if you have a villain like Clayface, you don't have to worry about it. There's no actor. And even if you do an actor, you can change him every movie and say, well, this is the face he uses now. You know, it doesn't matter. So I'd like to see more characters that are interchangeable with actors. That way they can stay truer to the character and not just have to play to a certain actor's strengths or personality. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I like the new X-Men movies, though, because they have all new actors and they're doing them like as a younger version of those characters. And that's how they brought in new actors. And I think the new actors that do the X-Men are much better than the original ones. Hugh Jackman aside, because he's the only one who's ever been Wolverine.
Well, I would
need a new one.
I would say Hugh Jackman aside, but then also I think that the X-Men franchise went downhill in a nosedive when they put Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, because she became so big right as that was happening because of the Hunger Game movies that all of a sudden every movie had to be about Mystique being a good guy because she was too big of an actress to play a bad guy, a sideline bad guy character.
Yeah, they overdid the Mystique storylines in the movies for sure. But,
yeah.
You know, I think Apocalypse was a really good movie. I liked First Class. I liked Days of Future Past. Those are my three favorite X-Men movies. And some of my favorite Marvel movies are those three. I like all the Thor movies, and I even like the kooky Ang Lee Hulk. I like the Batman and Robin with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I like some of the kookier stuff. And obviously I like the Iron Man and the Avengers movies. One of the worst movies for me was Civil War. I didn't like that movie at all.
Wow.
Well, I got to disagree with you on a few of those. I did like Days of Future Past somewhat. The X-Men movies to me are just kind of on the boring side. I mean, they don't have a good flow to them, in my opinion. With some Apocalypse did in parts, but not in totality. But I thought Civil War was a brilliant movie. I mean, considering the storylines that they took on and how they amalgamated them and how the heroes acted, I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. When I watch Civil War, I find myself, and I purchased it, so it's on my like on-demand box. I can watch whenever I want, so I still watch it. I like the beginning, like the first 35 minutes, and then I like the end. But the middle, it just drags on forever for me, and I can't do it. You know, most people agree with that Apocalypse was not good. Gretzky doesn't like it. Who else said? Man from Beantown, he said it was terrible. I thought Apocalypse was cool. I like the X-Men movies. They're kind of, I think they have good flow. There's a lot of different action scenes in them. There's a lot of sort of interesting interaction between the characters and the actors. I like how they do Quicksilver. I like how it sort of slows the camera down so that you
that's well done. That dynamic is well done. You're right about that. Yeah,
I think that's cool. I thought Apocalypse was a well done sort of ominous character. I thought it was pretty well done. I mean, I liked those movies. I think they're done well. You know, you got it from X-Men standpoint though. It's like with the Joker and DC. Enough with Magneto for a little bit. Maybe we don't need to see Magneto for maybe a decade. That's how I feel about it.
Right. Have you seen the new Phoenix movie?
That Fassbender guy as Magneto, but I don't need Magneto in every X-Men movie, and I don't need Joker in every Batman movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Have you seen the new Phoenix movie, DS?
No, I just watched Captain Marvel because I now rent it on demand. So I rented. The next one I'm going to watch is going to be. I haven't seen Endgame yet. I'll rent that when it comes out on my box, where I can rent it on my TV. And yeah, so X-Men, that's way down the line there, Roger. I'm not
okay. I didn't know if you went to the movies or you had to wait a minute.
No, I mean the last movie me and Mrs. DS went to was Venom, and we both liked that movie a pretty good amount. But
I haven't seen that one yet. So
it was expensive, and the theater was so loud. I just feel like it's you know, we don't go to the movies that often, and when we went there, we realized why.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's just, I don't know, the movie atmospheres. We like to watch things at home where we can sort of like, you know, just chill at home and watch the movie.
I kind of picture you and Mrs. DS. Now that I've met Mrs. DS, I kind of picture you and Mrs. DS sitting at an all white linen table with a glass of red wine each and a single candelabra, watching my top 10 video for 30 minutes.
Well, I don't know. There's not. I mean, the candelabra maybe, but I don't know about the white linen cloth. It's more bohemian, sort of.
More bohemian.
Yeah, I mean, if you see the type of art I collect, she's also into sort of like the occult and sort of some darker type stuff. So our place doesn't have a lot of white in it. You know what I mean? There's candles and there's like we have Salvador Dali's paintings on the wall, and there's some Egyptian stuff, and there's some occult and horror stuff, and it's a very comfortable, chill atmosphere to watch a movie on the. I bought the biggest TV that we could fit in the area we had designated for the TV. It was the biggest thing that would fit. It's like a 57-inch or something. It was the biggest one I could fit without crossing over into the doorway where we couldn't get by it. So, you know, it's like a movie theater in our house. So when these come out to rent, we rent them, and it's like watching a movie at home. So that's usually what we do.
That's awesome. There's less of a line in the bathroom too.
Gray Man says skulls and upside down crosses.
Yeah, that's another thing with these movies, though. These Marvel's doing these movies are like 3.5 hours long. With I need to go relieve myself at some point. You know, I can't pause it. 3.5 hours is a long time for an old man to sit through a movie. You know, I gotta go pee. I can't make it 3.5 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a quick trick for that, DS. No liquids 2 hours prior to the movie. Okay?
Yeah, that's a sacrifice I'm not willing to make.
No liquids. You know, when I went with my daughter, you know, we made a pact, right? Because if she went to the bathroom, she's going to come and wants to do a recap, you know. So I'm like, no, because then that takes my attention away from the movie. So I said, I'll get you whatever you want for lunch, but nothing 2 hours before. And it worked.
Yeah, I want to make that sacrifice. I want to be able to go and pause it and go to the fridge and get a drink and come back and watch it and get something to eat or just take a breather or something. So, you know, if you start crossing 3 hours with a movie, you know, they used to in the old days do intermissions, and I think that even went up into the 70s where they would do an intermission at movies. And they don't do that now, and they're putting out 3.5-hour Marvel movies. They should go an hour and a half and do an intermission and let the whole theater break for a minute and come back.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. I like that idea.
Yeah, they used to do that. Yeah, they used to do that back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah.
People may have been a little bit more civil then.
So
I think now you come back and your seat's gone, your jacket's missing. You know, you know, it can get a little rough now. I can see people coming back and just everybody changes seats and everybody's pissed off. It takes 45 minutes to get everybody back into a seat. So.
Yeah. And then 3.5 hours of movie. And if it's a Marvel movie, you know you can't leave when the credits come on because then you miss all the Easter eggs.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
And then they turn the lights on and people are getting up and leaving and you just gotta, and then you're the last one out. You can't get out of the parking lot. It's like it's too many people. Man. I would put Thanos with me to the theater, and after everybody's seated, he could snap his fingers and wipe out half the crowd. That would be much better. Then there would be less.
Oh, jeez.
Would be much better. I'd swear I always get stuck behind the 7-foot-tall secretary from 1983 who's got like, you know, Aquanet hair, another 2 feet higher. And I'm like, I can't see nothing behind this freaking tumbleweed, this wet tumbleweed in front of me. It's horrible. The last time we went to a movie, I don't even remember what we saw. And we sat, and my wife and my son, right? I sit in between them. So they, you know, my son picks a seat, he sits down, and now I'm stuck behind this one with the crazy hair. I'm like, great. Okay, now I can't do this. Please move over. He doesn't want to move because, you know, once the kids pick their spot, right? I'm like, that's it. We're moving all the way down. So
they're like juggernauts.
I know.
That's it. They're immovable.
Like 10 minutes later, we're talking during previews. Some more people come in the row in front of me and move that tumbleweed lady in front of me. And she sits right in front of me. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I couldn't believe it. My wife's just dying laughing. She's like, this always happens to you.
Yes.
Like, heck yeah, it does.
Yeah, I don't want to
Bales of Bub in the theater, I tell you.
Yeah. So whenever I'll rent it. I'll watch it at home.
I'm going to your house to watch the next movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's fly over to DS's, man.
Yeah, come on over. I got room, and it's going to be, you know, relatively speaking, the screen will be larger because you'll be much closer to it, so you'll actually see the movie better.
Do you serve hot popcorn?
I can.
All right, there you go. I'm down.
Well, listen, guys, I got to go because it's park time. You know what I mean?
Yes. That sounds horrible, Roger. I really suggest you rename that.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump off too. I got to go. So I'm just going to say a quick goodbye. Awesome. Thanks, everyone who's in the chat, and I will see you.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, everybody. Thanks for all your patronage over the past year. Next year will be even better, I think. So
likewise, I agree.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're all hopping off. My wife just baked some cookies. I got to go eat them. So everybody, thank you so much. Be blessed and be back. Oh, wait.
Hey.
Yeah.
Nice, Bub. Nice, Bub. You're learning my Padawan. Very good.
And read a comic. All right, I'm going to hop off. Roger, you keeping it, or are you going to go?
No, I got to go.
All right.
We'll
guys.
Catch
you next week on the No Faces Comic Chat. Thank you and good night.
Good night.